What's going on, everyone? My name is Nicholas Merton here at DataDash, and today is November 5th of 2017. Well, folks, whether you're new to the channel or if you're a veteran of the DataDash community, a lot of people have been asking me the same exact question, and I think it's a fair one at this point. Should I buy more Bitcoin, or should I buy Bitcoin in the first place? I think this is an important question to ask, and you should always ask this when you're making an actual trade or investment in something. And I think no matter if you're trading and investing, which yes, there is a difference in the two, a lot of people have to ask the same exact questions, because at the end of the day, whether you're trading or investing, you're hoping that when you buy something, eventually it'll be worth more. Okay, so at the end of the day, I think we all have, generally speaking, if you're an advocate of, if you understand what Bitcoin's about and you understand what blockchain is about and cryptocurrencies as a whole and what this revolution is all about, I think we all share the same hopeful long-term objectives. We want to see Bitcoin win. We want to see cryptocurrencies continue to see adoption. And no matter whether or not we want to see it or not, it's happening. You know, like it's been proven year by year. More transactions are being processed. More people are getting involved in it. And this is, you know, this whole kind of run-up that we've seen during 2017 has sparked a lot of interest. And it's gotten people talking. And what makes me more excited than anything is it's got people learning about the monetary system. So on a moral sense, I absolutely love Bitcoin. I absolutely believe that it is going to go towards astronomical values that we haven't even seen yet. I don't think this is the peak of Bitcoin. However, I do have to say to all of you out there, whether you're new to my channel or someone who's watched me for quite some time, that Bitcoin is getting a little overextended, a little too quick. Now, keep in mind, as I've stated, I'm not hating on Bitcoin. I'm not railing on cryptocurrencies as a whole. In fact, I cover them every day, so I better like them. You know, you gotta love your job, and I absolutely do love talking about cryptocurrencies. I love talking about the progress of Bitcoin and all of the other players in this space. However, at the end of the day, sometimes I have to apply a trader's mindset. As much as I am a long-term believer in this, there are opportunities where we can start to see the market getting a little overextended. Okay, so if you can already tell by the chart, we're looking at the weekly for Bitcoin right here. So each of these candles on the chart represents a price, a sense of price action for Bitcoin within a week's period. So these green candles haven't opened to close, so you have these continuing large candles of green positive price action as it's continuing to go exponential and more towards the right. So over time, we're going faster and faster and faster. We're spawning further away from the moving averages down here. I mean, this has been an absolutely crazy run-up, and I think it's well-deserved to a degree. However, at the end of the day, I'm starting to realize that there is a lot of misguided hype going into Bitcoin. For those of you out there who do believe in it long-term, I know many of you believe in it long-term for the right reasons. I know many of you out there see the absolute power that comes from a world decentralized cryptocurrency, that comes from a currency built on blockchain that allows peer-to-peer networks to form without the need of financial institutions or a central authority deeming what should be happening in the sense of monetary policy. I think we all get the long-term ambitions if we've been both long-term believers or long-term investors, and many of us, even who are traders, we get that. We understand the need for Bitcoin, and many of us hold long-term positions on the side, much as myself. However, at the end of the day, what we're seeing now is that there's a lot of people getting into Bitcoin, not because of those core values, but because of hype, because of headlines, because of the wrong reasons. And we still have an overbearing issue with Bitcoin, such as scaling. Now, if you're new to the crypto community and you don't know what scaling is, I would recommend you go watch some of my previous content and watch maybe my Bitcoin, the Bitcoin fork video that I did talking about SegWit2x. This is a big part in what we're going to be talking about today. But there's a few things that I really need to get clear right off the bat. The first thing is that right now Bitcoin is going through a massive hype phase over a few different things. The first one being free cash. Now, as many of you might have heard, Bitcoin has had forked currencies over the past few months. It's had Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Gold, and now we are going to have the third major hard fork of 2017, which is SegWit 2x or B2x, Bitcoin 2x. You've probably heard it as a few different things. And with this, it's going to have the original Bitcoin with the updated features as a secondary currency. So you're going to have Bitcoin, and you're going to have SegWit 2x. And anyone holding one Bitcoin, I know a lot of people have been curious about how this works. It's really as simple as this. When the currency splits, it's not splitting it in, really, quote unquote, splitting it on half. What it's doing is that it's creating a new currency where if you hold one Bitcoin, you get one SegWit 2x as well. So you'll have both. And people have started to notice that these forks that have been going through, these hard forks on the network where they split the chain, has really not been so much an effort to fix the issues of Bitcoin, but rather gain a lot of free cash. Because what happens is those coins get listed on exchanges, and people usually on the larger end who own millions of Bitcoin sell it just like that, and they make millions, clearing into the buy wall of individuals who are buying at a low thinking, oh, this might be just like Bitcoin. They prey on young investors and traders in this space. And because of that, that's not something I can be proud of in a sense. That's not what Bitcoin was all about. So again, that's just one thing. We're going to be talking about that and a few other things as well. The general consensus of the community on the fork, a lot of other hype that Bitcoin's living off of right now, especially this past week we've seen. So let's go ahead and dive into it. So Bitcoin itself right now is sitting at $125 billion. Keep in mind, a year from November 3rd, and I would generally assume it's around the same area now, seeing as it's continued to go up, Bitcoin has more than 10x'd in an overall year of price action. 10x of what it used to be. Now, to be fair, there has been more people getting involved, more hype coming into it, and more people generally adopting it, which makes me happy to see. However, it has steered off course a little bit. It's gone a little too exponential. There's been a little too much hype going into it. And it's gone up a little too quick, as we've seen in the past, down here. Again, if we don't learn from history, we're doomed to repeat it. Now, I don't think, as many of you out there might know, Bitcoin had a major run-up in 2013. And I don't think, honestly, we're going to see Bitcoin sell off as much as we did percentage-wise with its first real pullback. And actually, as I continue to extend it, the sell-off went on for a pretty prolonged time. And I don't think you're going to get this with this pullback that, we might be considering here. I don't think it's going to be that bloody, and I don't think we're going to be coming down, to only double of where it was before the major uptrend. I don't believe that. However, I do know that Bitcoin can, when it does correct after such exuberance, it can correct heavy. It can bring the pain. And because of that, we need to realize that buying at these levels might not be the best idea. Now, I'm no financial advisor. You've got to do your own research. And I'll be honest with you, I think at these levels, personal opinion, if you were to buy Bitcoin and wait a year or two, probably not only have your money back, but you'd probably be more well off. If you want to just treat it like that and you don't want to trade it, again, as I say on my channel, no criticism. Do as you please. However, at the same time, even if you are a long-term investor and you can apply a slight bit of trader's mindset, think about it this way. What if you could get Bitcoin at 33% off? Now, I know some people would say, like, here comes Nick, trying to bring in the trader's mindset, and he doesn't get that Bitcoin's going to 10K. No, I don't disagree that it's going to 10K. I think personally, in my personal mindset, that it's going to go much higher. The question is, can Bitcoin sustain this momentum to where it's not going to experience a correction in the next few weeks? I mean, look at this, folks. We really have to be a little rational here. Bitcoin has been moving, from September 15th. I know it because I've looked at the daily chart here, as we can even go to it to really kind of put the scale in. Since September 15th, the last pullback where we had all the China fear come in, where China was banning exchanges, and we had the Jamie Dimon FUD, Jamie Dimon, JP Morgan and Chase CEO, we had a pullback to 3,000, and we're now up to 7,500. within a month, a little over a month and a half. What was the time to buy? Was it down here after a correction or at all-time highs? I just feel like we're repeating history. I mean, this is just standard markets, folks. Markets have cycles. And just like how we talked last time before we had this sell-off, we were saying, it's getting towards 5,000. 5,000 is a very big even. We're now struggling, it depends on what exchange you're looking at, but relatively around the same level at 7,500 or 7,600. Generally more around 7,500. So that's from this high, a 50% increase, roughly. If you're doing 5,000 to 7,500, that's a 50% increase. If you take it all the way down from these lows down here at 3,000, Bitcoin has not only doubled, it's gone more than that. It's gone from 3,000 to 750. It's a huge return within a month and a half's time, practically. So as much as I'm exuberant on Bitcoin, and I think even in the next few months, maybe we might reach all-time highs. I'm not doubting that. We might still have more room for the overall uptrend. But much like the previous two uptrends, the shorter-term uptrends are very short-lived, and the amount of exuberance and exponential price action that follows in them can also come back with just as much pain. 3,000 down to 1,800, 5,000 down to 3,000. That's serious price movement, folks, where we really are on the brink of something big. And again, that's why in a moral sense, I love Bitcoin. And I think that, there's a lot of interesting things going on in this space. But at the end of the day, there's been a lot of things propping this up and has brought it to this price that isn't fundamentally why Bitcoin should be valued what it is. And it's because of this. It's because of forks. It's because of false promises from a very select few in the community who have a very overwhelming and overpowerful stake in Bitcoin, not the Bitcoin community. Bitcoin itself was built to be a decentralized peer-to-peer currency. Right now, the changes and modifications that are happening to the Bitcoin network are happening behind closed doors. They're happening inside very secretive meeting rooms where you have people who run the leading exchanges, mining pools, and other businesses related to cryptocurrencies. And they hold not only a major stake in crypto, but they also own the vast majority of mining operations. And these people, a very select few, a few dozen companies and organizations, they are making the modifications to Bitcoin. There's a reason that's scary, because not only can you have things like Bitcoin Gold, which was made by literally one individual at its core, and they were able to take the Bitcoin brand and create a new currency. And then in an instant, this supposed revolutionary fork sold off. As you can see from that volume, people cashed out. And we just sat there and let it happen. In an instant like that, something went from being a $7 billion cryptocurrency with the Bitcoin brand with high promises to a $2 billion one. Created out of thin air. Now, I understand that $2 billion is much more of a fair valuation, but that's still worrying as someone who believes in the longevity of crypto. And that's where people are getting a little upset, because the general community came to the New York agreement to settle on something, to settle on that agreement that they were going to implement SegWit, and they were going to implement the block size increase of 2 megabytes in phases. And the community is disagreeing on that now. Now, not only is that bad, because that shows that we do not have a general consensus as a community. Of course, I don't think we'll always have a perfect one. But at the same time, we continue to split Bitcoin because of small differences that don't fix the greater issue. Now, for those of you who are new, the issue right now with Bitcoin is scaling. Scaling in the sense of being able to process more transactions for cheaper costs, but at the same time not losing sight of the fact that we have to store information on the blockchain, which can eventually get to where it's too much. And along with that, keeping in mind that we don't want mining to be centralized. We want it to be distributed. We're not fixing the issue here with SegWit 2x, with the block size increase to 2 megabytes. Just gonna say it. I think people have varying opinions on what that does. And we had things, for example, like Bitcoin Cash, which didn't implement SegWit, but did increase the block size all the way up to 8 megabytes. And sure, they cut down transaction fees, but at the same time, if Bitcoin Cash becomes massively adopted and has the demand that's put on the Bitcoin network put on Bitcoin Cash, sure, for the short term, they'll be able to process those transactions. But it starts stacking up the network faster and faster, and having cheaper transactions sometimes can lead to overclocking on the network, having way too many transactions pour in. And because of that, it's going to make it, it's going to make it a long-term issue. So we have all these different forks that aren't really fixing the issue at hand, and we have a very select few people in the community, keep in mind, who are very powerful and have their own self-interest dominating the future of not only Bitcoin, but these forks. They're not fixing the real issues. They're finding ways to make short-term money. These are billion-dollar cryptocurrencies, folks, that people are creating out of thin air, and it's not fixing any issue. We can keep splitting the network and say, no, we're bringing competition. No, what you're doing is you're dismantling the Bitcoin brand. And what scares me is that if a few select people can do this in the world, if a very select few people who are the powerful players in the space can do such a thing and manipulate the Bitcoin brand, who's to say that some powerful overhead couldn't influence them, couldn't get involved, and then absolutely dismantle the one thing we've been fighting for this entire time? That's my biggest gripe right now. But there's a few other things as well. As I've been saying, this whole kind of free cash grab has been huge, but along with that, we have a few other things to worry about. Volatility is extremely low. Now, I know many people, who haven't watched the channel might say, Nick, isn't that good? I've heard volatility is bad. Volatility is not bad in the sense of a buying opportunity. You want markets to be in a pullback. You want markets to be at a discount. Very simple analogy. Do you go to the store to buy a hot new item or tech device when it just launched and people are buying so much of it that you can't get it anymore in the store, and someone's bought all the supply and they're selling it for double the price because it's that much in demand and people are willing to pay that? Or do you want to buy that device or that product when it's at a 50% discount? I don't know about you, I like to buy something on a 50% discount. And Bitcoin is giving us a signal, much like it has in history. You can obviously see on the chart here that when it gets to around the 3% range, usually around 3 to 3.5%, it's time to start looking towards locking in some positions, cutting the levels of greed that we might have, and thinking a little more rationally, and starting to prepare for something. Again, long-term, love Bitcoin, but we see drastic reductions in the price in the matter of a few days, and I'd hate to see someone new in this space get burnt like this because they don't know how to look at numbers like this. They don't know how to look at volatility, and they haven't traded before. I mean, this is serious stuff, folks. And again, I have an interesting poll here from Twitter about the general support of Bitcoin 2x or SegWit 2x. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the miners adopt, folks. It's what you adopt. And the fact that we have consistently rejected the notion of SegWit 2x and other forks tells me that the community is getting fed up. We're done with it. We're done with these continued forks. We're done with the fact that we're not fixing the issues at hand with Bitcoin, processing more transactions, and not, breaking the core fundamentals of what made Bitcoin Bitcoin. There's other ways around it. And what we have to do is we have to continuously think with that mindset, not as a centralized group up in New York in an agreement on one day, but as a community. We need to start talking about this. We need to start talking about solutions. We need to start thinking outside the box and coming together as individuals, because for the first time in history, Whereas for years, actually centuries, there was centralized institutions that had to find ways to improve on their currency, and many of which didn't because they didn't have to innovate. We all here play a role in Bitcoin. We can do that innovation. We can be a part of it. We can do it as a community. But the issues are still here with Bitcoin. The price is overextended right now. The volatility is speaking that. It's saying that right now, that the price right now is probably a little over the top. And I think it's over the top because you got two real things that are causing FOMO in the market, a fear of missing out. You have speculation, absolute speculation that Amazon is going to, in the near future, start accepting Bitcoin payments. Okay, this has been going on for about a month or two now, that Amazon is going to be accepting Bitcoin. Not only has Amazon not made a statement about accepting Bitcoin, so that's been pure speculation from the start, but second off, they've actually gone out and saying, Amazon Pay's VP Patrick has stated that Amazon does not plan to accept cryptocurrency since there is little demand. And this goes back to another thing as well about Bitcoin, with the whole issue at hand, with all these forks and scaling. Do we want to make Bitcoin a currency, or is it seen almost like a digital commodity now? Well, we don't seem to want to have this debate because let's just create a fork and let's just try and fix this issue that we might not even have to fix in the first place. It's the real question at the end of the day whether or not we can really just live in this kind of falsehood that, there's the next big headline that's going to lead Bitcoin to 8,000 to 9,000 to 10,000. Or if we can actually start sitting fundamentally back and saying, this is getting a little ridiculous. And a lot of people say, Nick, Bitcoin or Amazon just bought Amazon Bitcoin and Amazon Ethereum. It's called brand protection, folks. They don't want people going out and buying domains with the Amazon name to then go out and scam people with the Amazon name. There's a lot of other reasons outside of that as well that they would want to buy a domain, but that's the main reason. It's brand protection. It's owning domains with your tag name, So, again, I love to see Amazon accept cryptocurrencies, and when it does, it's going to be huge. But it's speculation right now, and when you have too much speculation, when you have things at all-time highs, I'm not eager to buy. I'm not eager to put a lot of money into it. And the other thing as well, this is what a lot of people are getting excited about. The CME Group announcing a launch of Bitcoin futures. Now, if this does happen, and it's expected right now that if they launch it, it is going to be in Q4 of 2017. It says it right here in the fine print. They've got it right here as well. If it does, this will be good for Bitcoin. And you know what? I'm not even going to lie. I bet it could go easily to 10K when futures start trading for Bitcoin, because you're going to have institutional money betting on the future of Bitcoin. And no matter what, even though they're not trading physical Bitcoin, if futures are rallying up as much as they would when futures open for Bitcoin, you are going to see it go up. But this is all short term. There is a big risk here. They're calling for Q4 of 2017. Folks, it's November 5th of 2017. CME Group has no legitimate obligation, from what I know, to meet on that promise. They could take months. They might still be fighting through legal regulation. Maybe they've been planning this for quite some time, and maybe they do have it ready to launch. But again, right now we have no official confirmation date. We have no guarantee that they can meet on this promise. So as of now, I have to treat it like speculation. But again, lots of things to complain about. The main thing with SegWit, futures are not living up to the hype that we were hearing about SegWit just a few weeks ago. How this was going to be a Bitcoin killer. If it is, and if it's going to contest Bitcoin, you would see BT2, which is Bitfinex's. They did a early split where you can actually get ownership of your SegWit 2x tokens and start trading it inside your account. So you get BT1, which is the original Bitcoin, and BT2. And right now, it's not showing a glamorous maybe $5,000 or $6,000 Bitcoin that's competing with the original Bitcoin. People were saying this was going to be a toss-up, and it could be, but futures sure aren't pointing to it. And usually futures, I'll be honest with you all, are usually overtly optimistic compared to what the fork actually opens at. Just think when this actually hits the exchanges. If people, when they got it, instantly dumped it like that, from not going from almost $1,200 to $900, what do you think people are going to do when they get full access to their Bitcoin Segwit 2x? You know, I think it's going to repeat what it did in the past. Sell off. Sell off. We've got to learn when the insanity needs to stop, folks. And I think more than anything, it's probably best that we learn it here when we're at all-time highs. And we start building protective methods. Now again, I think in the short term, Bitcoin might be able to go up a little bit more. It could. I'm not going to deny that. But I don't like these candles right here. The technical price action, not looking good. We go here to the hourly. If you all want my trader's perspective, you can obviously see that we've got an ascending wedge here. If you want some kind of technical price action. And ascending wedges, though it sounds great, ascending, is bearish. It's not a good sign. And you get one of these candles of volume coming in from a big seller, and we break this 50 hour, and then we come down and we test the 200 hour here, but it breaks through. Bitcoin's in for a pretty steady correction, because for quite some time, as much as I'm optimistic on this, there's been a lot of hype coming into Bitcoin, and we need to correct. We need to take a break. We need to cool down, stop the FOMO. And for those all of you out there, whether or not you're experienced or someone new to the space, understand that Bitcoin is riding off a lot of hype right now. And I think, as I stated, we're losing a little bit of sight as to what Bitcoin is all about. We've got to start building an actual community around this. That's the reason I've been building the Data Dash channel. We need a community of well-informed individuals who don't buy into emotions and don't buy into headlines and actually do the research and facts and fundamentals, much like we would in traditional markets. And along with that, we need to start standing up to the forks and standing up to the speculators, because they're damaging our very foundation. And it's all for the benefit of their own gain. I could care less if Bitcoin goes up $1,000 or $2,000 tomorrow. What I do care is about the long-term longevity of Bitcoin. And right now, I can't believe it's at this price in such a short period of time. It's exciting, but at the same time, I know that Bitcoin is slowly losing sight of what really makes it Bitcoin. And it's a very select few people in the community that are doing it. But at the end of the day, we have to be honest with ourselves. It's not the evil people in the world who are really to blame at the end of the day. It's a larger community as a whole who doesn't stand up to it that is going to face the repercussions and the blame for it. Because we have everything in our power to speak up against this, to say no to the forks, to start saying, let's gather as a community and start talking about this if we really want to make Bitcoin the currency we know it can be. And let's think about it not off the headlines of Amazon and institutional money getting involved, but by rather building a currency for the general public, for the world, to finally own in a decentralized manner. Because after all, that's what Bitcoin's all about. And that's why I believe in it. Anyways, everyone, that's it for the video. Thank you all so much for watching. If you all would like, I can potentially make a video following up where I think Bitcoin could be going. Right now, I think for the sake of this video, I think it's best to end it off on this note. But I'll definitely be doing up a follow-up video and talking about some potential levels for a correction. Anyways, everyone, that's it for the video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Stay tuned.